Welcome back to another episode of Cheese Focus Live. We've got a full show for you tonight. We're kind of going to compile our two weekly shows into one. We're going to sort of recap what happened that the Chiefs weren't involved with over the weekend, and then we're going to talk about the game that's coming up on Saturday. Once again, Houston is playing on the first spot on Saturday. They've literally played in 9 playoff games, and they've only played on the first Saturday slot. So we're going to talk about that. And I've got a great just an S tier take about something the NFL is thinking about changing. With that being said, my name is Quentin Morris. We got Thiz running the show in the background, and now a guy who's ready to watch the Chiefs play their version of regular season football. It's the old man himself, JP. How are we doing tonight?
I'm good, man. I'm glad you're not sick anymore.
Oh yeah, dude. Oh, it was awful. I mean, it started in my chest, and I was just doing nothing but sneezing and blowing my nose for about 4 days straight, and then it moved and I had like a ear infection. Oh, it was awful. I literally have not been that sick in years.
Yeah, it sucks when it finally hits you, because when you're not sick for a long period of time and then it stabs you in the face like that, it's a real kick.
I definitely felt like, there's that stereotype that men can't get, they feel like they're going to die if they get a cold, but, you can get shot in the arm and you're fine.
Yeah.
I definitely was thinking about that as man, I just feel like this and I feel like I'm going to die. And I get the 2 antibiotics in me and it's like I was saved by Jesus. I felt so much better.
Well, I'm glad you're back, man. We got a lot to talk about.
We do. Games over the weekend. I know a lot of people were just crapping on them because they were bad.
Roof.
And I kind of see where they're coming from. But the Chargers-Texans game was not bad as a viewing experience. It was bad if you're a fan of one of those two teams, because it was bad football, but it was bad entertaining football. Turnovers are entertaining.
That game was a little surprising to me. It wasn't simply because it was the scoring on both sides. I didn't expect the Texans to score really at all because they don't have any wide receivers left. Their 2 main targets are out for the year. I didn't expect them to be able to go in and score at all on the Chargers defense, but they did. And the weirdest thing was, both teams have been struggling with wide receivers. That's something that I think people aren't really taking into consideration. You got a brand new head coach, hasn't been in the NFL in a long time. He's really turned that franchise around to a degree. And then Justin Herbert just fell on his ass, which that was unexpected.
Yeah,
I did not expect that.
He ultimate charger.
God, dude.
That was the chargering of chargering.
It really was. I mean, it was sad to watch. I don't think anybody expected that. He looked lost.
The narrative for him is going to be forever sealed until he can break it, that this is a guy that can't play in the playoffs. It is that narrative that has been built around Lamar for a while, and he's getting close to breaking that. If he wins over the weekend and plays well, I think that he can sort of break that. That narrative is now shifted towards Lamar Jackson, or to Justin Herbert, and it's unfortunate because I do think he is a good quarterback, but
really good one.
That's what happens to athletes that are good enough to get there, but not good enough to bust through, that next level.
Well, he was also stuck in a really weird situation the first.
True.
4.5 years of his career, he's been through a total of 5 different coaches, OC and head coach.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a hard. Oh, and I agree. I've been saying this on the show. I believe he's going to get traded this year. I think this is his last year with the Chargers. I don't think Harbaugh cares so much for a very accurate, strong quarterback as he does the run game, and that's obvious in his whole coaching career. But I've never thought he was going to stay. I thought Harbaugh was going to get rid of him after this year, and I still think it's going to happen, especially after this playoff game. But that might be the best thing for him. It might be the best thing that can happen to him. I mean, he needs a fresh start somewhere else just to get himself straightened out because I think that kid's got immense talent. To this day, I can tell you, if he was on the Miami Dolphins over the last 3 years, you'd be talking about him in the Super Bowl conversations weekly. He's that good. He's better than Tua ever thought about being. It's just his situation. He's never been able to stick with the same coach, learn from the same coach, whether it be OC or head coach. I mean, Brandon Staley, for Christ's sake, that was the worst head coaching move I've seen in a long time.
Hmm.
But uh, I think with that offensive weapons that the offensive weapons that the Dolphins had, if he'd have had those weapons, man, I don't know. I think he'd have been a great pick for them. Over, I mean, honestly, you're talking about two quarterbacks. I think that came out at the exact same time,
Yeah.
and the Dolphins went with Tua. Maybe they had to. I don't know, but Herbert would have been a better pick for them.
Well, you remember it was the tank for Tua, right? That's
That's
what
yeah,
and then the Dolphins like fell back in the draft, and then they still ended up with Tua.
yeah. I mean, it's crazy to think that these guys, these teams. Sometimes I look at like the Raiders and the mistakes they've made. I look at Pittsburgh Steelers and the mistakes they've made since Roethlisberger has not, is retired. They have not had a solid quarterback. They still don't have a solid quarterback. They'd have been better off, I think. Still to this day, I still think they've been better off uh, with Fields and over Russell Wilson. He's more athletic. He's faster. If he has to run with the ball, he's going to get away. Russ can't get out of his own fucking way.
No.
He just can't. And it showed in that playoff game. He got his ass handed to him in that playoff game. He had two good, maybe three good passes total in that game. And that was to wide open wide receivers. I don't know, man. I look at some of the mistakes these coaches make and these GMs make, especially the ones that are on the street now, the Tom Telesco's of the world, and you wonder how they even got the job. Look, let's talk about the Cowboys real quick. Jerry Jones talked all that shit about how you're going to stick with McCarthy, not going to make a move. Telesco is a bum, and he should never be a GM again. But then he waits until all these. I mean, the coaching carousel has been going on for 10 days. All these guys got interviews. All these guys have been moving around. All the Ben Johnson talk and this talk and that talk. He put himself in a position where it was almost said and done that these guys made up their mind where they were going. And then he calls Deion Sanders. Deion's happy where he's at. I don't think he's going there. And even if he did, he wants to go where his son goes if he goes to the NFL. If they drafted his son, that means that Dak Prescott would have to be released because his son's not going to be a backup for very long. That's a $101 million cap hit. You think Jerry Jones is going to do that? Hell no. He's going to stick with Dak until he can't stick with him any longer. He's not going to give up anything for Deion Sanders' son. So Jerry Jones is a disaster. He may be available for trade, but who the hell's going to take that contract over?
Yeah, the problem is, the Dallas has to eat a lot of that money. Plus,
yeah, Dallas would have to eat 50 to 60% of that
and
money.
Dak has a no trade clause, so you can't just trade him anywhere.
Yeah, he'd have to go where he wants to go,
right.
And then you got to figure out a team that's going to allow. Jerry would have to eat a minimum of 50% of that contract. Yeah, I mean, you're talking about $50.5 million he would have to eat minimum to get that deal, get him out of there. And I'm sorry, but Dak is he's like a glass slipper. That dude gets hurt doing laundry. He gets hurt sleeping. I've never seen somebody get injured as quickly and as much as he does. Especially a lot of his no contact injuries. He's just a weird guy. He's weak. Good player at times. He's just very weak. And he doesn't come back from injury very well. He hasn't his whole career. But you look at some of the mistakes these guys have made, and you just wonder how they continue to move on the next year and think, okay, my fans will still. Jerry Jones thinks that it's a privilege to be a coach or a player for the Cowboys. Those days are gone. Those days are gone. It's a privilege to play for a team that gives a shit enough to help you win, and he doesn't do that. So it's interesting. I don't know what's going to happen with them. I don't even know who's going to go to Chicago at this point. I got a weird feeling it's going to be Arthur Smith. I think he's going to be in Chicago, or he may be with Dallas. I don't know. They're going to end up making another mistake. Ben Johnson, he's not stupid enough to go there. He's not dumb enough to go to the Raiders.
Well, and Ben Johnson is, as the reporting behind it is that he wants control on, at least significant control on the roster.
Exactly.
So he's not going to go to Dallas and do that, because that's the Jerry Jones family, play is we want a puppet head coach. We want a guy who can handle it,
Yes, man.
you want to handle it on the field, but the behind the scenes stuff, trades, and he wants to do the Madden franchise, but you simulate the coaching. That's what he
Exactly.
wants to do. So,
Exactly. And Chicago, they're no different. They tell you got full control. They did it to Matt Nagy. They told Matt Nagy, "You got full control. Do whatever you want."
I
Then Nagy
mean,
tried to trade a player to us, and they said, "No, we don't think that's a good idea." He
Ryan,
was going to trade what's his name, Allen Robinson, for McCole Hardman and what's his name?
the doctor,
That's the doctor. And
yeah,
they
Lou
said, "No, I don't think that's a good
Day
idea."
Tardif or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, that's not a good idea. I don't think we're not going to allow you to do that. Well, even though you do have full control and it's in your contract, we're not going to allow you to do that. That's just Chicago's way. The Raiders, the only way they're going to get somebody to take over to run that team is if they get rid of Mark Davis and somebody else has controlling interest in the team
Well, I
because he's
think
an idiot.
that, not to get too far off track here, but I think that Tom Brady is going to have a lot of say in the general manager there. I think that's part of the reason you let him buy into the team, is that, you sort of, in terms of finding a head coach, finding a GM, you sort of put him in charge of that and make him the face of it. So when you're trying to convince somebody to come here and to make football decisions, be like, hey, for a lot of these people, they grew up. If you're 40 years old, you've watched Tom Brady's entire career, right?
Yep.
And so for a lot of people, idolize him because of that. So if you're 40 years old and you've been in football your whole life, and Tom Brady walks up and says, hey, I want you to be in charge of my team, I think that's pretty enticing for a lot of people.
He tried to get Belichick and he turned it down. Belichick said no. He took a college, but here's the thing.
Well, you want to be with his girlfriend.
Well, and that's the whole thing. He's finally like, okay, I got a girlfriend that's this age, college age, and I'm kind of done with the NFL. And if he had plenty of opportunities to take a job in the
I mean,
NFL.
technically his buyout doesn't kick in until June, so he still has time.
He does, but I don't think he's going to take it. I don't think he's why. Okay, first of all, why would you go into a division that Andy Reid's in, knowing Andy Reid's not leaving?
I
That
mean,
that's
Harbaugh
dumb.
and Peyton did it.
Yeah, but they're also, and he can see that. Peyton thought he was better than he was. So did Harbaugh, for that matter. But neither one of them have the pedigree that Andy Reid has, and they know it. They stepped in trying to make something out of nothing, and they're not. They're not getting anywhere. They're making nothing out of nothing. Now, I'm going to give them both credit. They both made it to the playoffs. That's awesome. Made our division a little bit more enticing, a little more fun to watch. But when it all said and done, they don't have Mahomes, they don't have Andy, and they don't have Spags, and they don't have Chris Jones. They don't have the ownership that we have. So the lone wolf in this whole thing is the Raiders, and it kind of gives you an idea. And that was the thing with the Raiders too. I think, and I know Mark Davis had this in his mind. Well, if we get rid of Telesco now, that'll show that we really want somebody to come in and do this job the right way. That'll entice people to come in here and be a head coach, because Telesco's hated in the NFL. So they figured, okay, well, this would be a good idea. It'll help entice people to come in here and coach. It's not going to help. Not unless Mark Davis steps back in a meeting and says, you know what? I'm not running the team anymore. I'm going to go play around in the WNBA and get bad haircuts while somebody else runs my franchise for me.
You know, he's paying 3 coaches right now.
Yeah, yeah, that's sad.
He's paying
That is
three
sad.
coaches, and he currently does not have a head coach.
And one of them he still owes $30 million to. 30 million. John Gruden is owed 30 million, and he's making 10 million a year off of Barstool Sports right now,
That's why
sitting
an
in a chair
NFL
acting
getting
stupid.
fired from an NFL coaching job is,
Man, it's fantastic. It's retirement. It's a
yeah.
retirement, man. I mean, hell, I would love to coach a team, get a 5-year contract, and coach them for a half a season and suck terrible. Go ahead and pay me. I don't care. I'll go home. I'm going to go home. I'm going to sit in my big ass house. I'm going to giggle at everybody else while I'm getting paid. I'm fine with that. I can't coach. No way I could run a team. But give me the opportunity. Pay me, Mark Davis. I'll do it. I would love to make 5 million a year for the
You,
next
yeah,
5-10 years.
as you're literally sitting in your Chiefs jersey.
Yeah, well, I could wear this, on my off days. But yeah, it's just weird. I don't know. It's going to be a very strange off season. This is going to be a weird off season. By the way, while we're talking about this, Spags had interviews with the Jets, um, the Panthers, I think.
The
Was it
Saints.
the Saints, and then one other team, the Titans, maybe. I can't remember now. There's three teams that no, two of the three teams he interviewed with. One, the Raiders asked for permission. That's comical. Chiefs are never going to get permission for him to talk to the Raiders. Not going to happen. I don't think he's leaving anyway. Neither one of those jobs are, and they're not. I don't think that's something he would want to do. Why would you break up what you're doing now to go coach for a terrible franchise that's probably going to make you look worse than you did the last time?
Well,
Just not
he
going to
he has
happen.
talked about multiple times. He's been asked multiple times about how, he would like an opportunity to go be a NFL head coach again. And, he always like, "Oh, I'm happy here, but yeah, I'd love the opportunity to go be a head coach again." And while,
But it's going to be very selective.
exactly, yeah. I mean, you don't want to just jump right back in. You've got a good thing going here, not just with the success that you've had, but in terms of the talent that you have, the stability of the organization. Um, but I do think that if the right job comes along, he'll take it. I have no doubt in my mind that he is being completely honest when he says that he would like to be a head coach again. Most of these guys want to be head coaches again. Very rarely do you get a guy that gets fired from a head coaching job, and if they get another opportunity, they just say, "You know what? I'm good."
Well, and I agree, but for the longest time, he didn't want to. He was happy being a defensive coordinator. He didn't have the stress. He's made that very clear numerous times prior to this year. He made it very clear he was very happy not having the stress and doing what he was good at. The thing about this year that is different with all these coaching positions that are open, most of them need offensive minded coaches. He's not. And I think that's going to play into a lot of the situation. I mean, the Raiders need a quarterback. Um, the Jets, who knows what they're going to fucking do? They're just a disaster of an organization.
Yeah.
Carolina, they need an offensive head coach. The Saints, good God, another disaster of a team right now. It's just, I don't think any of these positions that are open, and there's other people out there that are, I got to be honest with you, teams are more interested in. The Ben Johnsons of the world. They're more interested in a guy like him
Yeah.
than they are Spags, just simply because he's offensive minded. So when it all boils down to, I don't think Spags is going anywhere this year. I don't even think he's going to go anywhere next year. Now, I do know that he is first in line for Andy Reid's job when he retires. And that's probably weighing on his mind as well. Because Matt Nagy ain't getting it. And he knows that. I know that. And what I've been told is Spags is the front runner for that position. He may stick it out for the next 3 or 4 or 5 years, however long Andy wants to stick around. If he rides out his contract or whatever he ends up doing, which would be 2029 or 2030 when that contract ends. So he may stick around for that. Why would you not want to step into a team, get handed the best playbook in all of football ever, and then have the best quarterback in football and still be able to run your defense and then bring in a good offensive minded OC that knows what they're doing? You got it made. You have it made by sticking it out. It's not going to hurt him a bit. Why wouldn't you not want to do that? A great organization, the greatest playbook ever written, and the best quarterback that's ever played the game. That'd be insane not to wait that out. He's been patient this long. I don't know why he wouldn't be patient a little bit longer. But anyway, Jalen Watson's playing this week, by the way.
Yeah, it's good because, while Houston doesn't have the best wide receiver core anymore, you need to get him back out there. It is impressive. Well, we talked about this on our last show. It's impressive to see what he has done, how quick, and just how physically strong you have to be in
My
order
God.
to overcome that. So yeah, for him to have a real chance to make an impact during this playoff run, Kansas City needed it too, because
Oof.
the part of the problem with the defense that we had seen is that it's a full unit for a reason. Kansas City's pass rush was limited because compared to last year, because last year you had two great corners on the outside that you could seriously put them out on an island, and it allowed Spags to be way more creative with the front seven. And then when you rightfully traded L'Jarius Sneed, and then he got hurt, man, it really created a lot of problems for you. But now you're sort of resetting back to where you were at the beginning of the year. It's crazy that Kansas City is maybe the healthiest team left in the playoffs.
They
Like,
really are.
I mean, they every week they're getting guys back, and
Yep.
I know they haven't played in 24 days when Saturday comes around, but for a team that's played the most football in NFL history over the last 4 years, um, that's a nice 24-day break. The argument of rest versus rust, I think applies to basically any other team,
Yeah,
but
that is any other team. Yeah.
this is literally like they just had a second training camp.
Yeah.
I mean, they
Yeah,
just
they
got
really did. Yeah.
so this is great, and it really just shows that there are a ton of other guys that had injuries and continue to play. Patrick Mahomes' ankle, for example, right? Like the fact that he gets to be off of that ankle for 3 weeks after he played a couple of games on it. And we always talk about how every guy at this time of the year has nagging injuries. We
Yeah.
know that Travis Kelce is one of those guys to where, he said, I think it was on maybe Rich Eisen's show, one of the like national shows he went on, and he said that he's feeling like he's 22.
22 again.
So
Yeah. He's
yeah,
I fired up and ready.
yeah,
I feel like I'm fucking 22 again. I'm fired up. That's what he said.
yeah.
And I love it. He's ready, man.
It's
He's
also
ready
a
to
Taylor
play.
Swift song, if you didn't catch
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
But he's I think you're going to see a different Travis Kelsey in the
I think we're
playoffs.
going to see the Travis Kelce we saw last year in the playoffs.
Absolutely. 120, 130 yard, 3 touchdowns a game. That's
No,
what you're going to
I
see
mean,
out of
not a
him.
game, but,
Hey, you never know, man. That guy,
uh-huh.
he's a beast, dude. He's a beast.
I
Don't
definitely, he's going to take control of one of these games, whether it's against
absolutely.
Houston or I presume it'll be Baltimore or whoever, they play in the Super Bowl. I think Travis Kelce is going to have a game.
Yeah, I mean, he is. And I think you're going to see that he's going to be that guy that's open because everybody else is back. I
And
mean,
Hollywood Brown is a big part of that. I know that we just haven't
absolutely.
had a lot of time to talk about Hollywood Brown, but I
Yeah.
think that he is going to be a big part of this, just because he had a lot of the Charles Omenihu effect coming
Yeah.
back,
Yeah.
where Charles Omenihu is not the best pass rusher by any means, but he's a competent veteran who knows what he's doing, and you have to respect him. And that's a
His
lot what
pressure
Hollywood
rate
Brown
is
is.
insane
Right.
though.
And Hollywood Brown is like that on the offensive side. He's
Yeah.
not the fastest guy in the world, but he's a competent route runner. And if you don't respect him, you don't put guys on him, then you're going to pay for it. And so getting him back, a few weeks ago, we got him back to where he was running it, and we immediately saw it was like bam. I mean, it was like he had never missed
Yeah.
any time during the season. The immediate hookup was there. Now you've got him coming back. Everybody's healthy. I mean, it just seemed to work perfectly out for Kansas City.
Absolutely. I mean, and by the way, he's a 4.28 guy. He's not slow.
He's not
He's
slow, but I mean, he's not, he's not the fastest guy.
well, no. I
He's
mean,
still fast.
Worthy's the fastest guy, but I
Yeah,
mean, he's quick and he's a distraction, and that's what we needed. We needed guys that were not only a distraction but can catch, can get down the field and do what he's supposed to do, and he does it. He's just and with his hit it, with him and the combination of every other player
right.
that's on that team is just it's scary. And we are a different team in the playoffs. Everybody knows that.
Yeah, it's like
Patrick Mahomes.
Sammy Watkins wasn't the best wide receiver in the world, but
No, he was not.
you added him to that Chiefs offense, and it just made it to where you had to respect him, because if you didn't, he would go off, and that potential being there just adds more pressure to the defense, and that's what
Yes.
Hollywood Brown is.
And Sammy, the difference I think with him was he was not by no means the fastest guy, but he was a phenomenal route runner and he had great hands. He could
Yeah,
catch anything. And if you didn't respect him, he would burn you like he did in the playoffs and the Super Bowl. He burned your ass.
yeah.
So, it's going to be interesting with everybody coming back and being back. And the rest, I think, is done wonders for everybody on that football team. I mean, Chris Jones is a full participant. Everybody other than who was it that wasn't? He was limited. It was only one guy that was limited this week, but everybody else was a full participant. So it's it's it's
McCall Hardman.
dangerous. Yeah, he was the only one that was limited, and from what I understand, he's coming back as well. Now I don't know if he's going to play this week, but he is coming back.
I mean, we could talk about the injury report. There is a couple guys that I wanted to talk about. Chamari Connor getting back is great. Great to see. I know that scary concussion that he got, so him being back in practice is great. I know the big question has been about DJ Humphries and the left
Yeah,
tackle.
he's starting.
It seems like that DJ Humphries is going to be the left tackle. Man, I don't know how I feel about that. Part of me is like, if Andy Reid trusts him, I should trust him. The other part of me is like, everything I know about football says that you should just play the guy that you've had there the last
He said, "I'm scared
2
to
months.
death."
I mean, everything I know about
Yeah,
football says the last 2 months you've had one guy there who has been competent, who has been
yeah,
able to play quality left
phenomenal.
tackle.
Yeah,
Then you've got a guy next to him, Caliendo, who's been able to come in and he's able to play competent left guard.
yeah.
Stick
Well,
with that.
I
And
I, I agree
Andy
with
Reid,
you, but Andy's got it. Look, the way it sounds to me and what I was told look, 3 days ago he was undecided, and then he made a decision that, or from what I understand, unless he changes his mind again, Humphreys is starting this week. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to finish. He's just starting. Andy could easily switch that up at halftime. And if it comes down to us losing that game, it's not going to happen. If it comes down to Mahomes getting pressured a ton, it's not going to happen. He'll go right back to what he knew. Now, again, Andy can change his mind again in a second. And it's not just Andy. I'm just telling you right now, Patrick Mahomes has a whole lot to say about this. So if it comes down to it and Humphreys is having trouble causing any issues at all, then it will change. But I
I
know
think
they want to get through this game. So
I think the benefit is that I think it's pretty fair to say that out of the 3 other AFC teams, the Texans probably have the best defensive line, especially if you're just specifically talking exterior guys. If you're talking
mhm,
just purely pass rushers, the Texans have the best
yeah,
duo. So I think that's going well. So if he's able to hold up in this game, then you definitely feel confident. Like I said, I think that the Chiefs are playing the Ravens in the championship game,
that's what I
but
think too. I agree. I
um,
agree with you there. I think the Ravens are going to beat the Bills. I've been
yeah,
saying that, and everybody says I'm crazy, but I think the Ravens are going to beat them.
yeah.
The Bills' defense, I don't think are going to be able to hold up to.
Their pass defense is good. Their run defense struggles. And I don't know if you watched that game. I don't even know if you can call it a game. I don't know if you watched that Ravens practice against the Steelers,
Yeah, I
but
watched it.
I mean, they had a 13 They had a 13-play drive that was all runs, and they scored
Yeah,
a touchdown on it. It was,
yeah,
I think it was the 99-yard one. It was
it
crazy.
was. Yeah, that was
It's crazy.
insane. Yeah, I mean, that was insane.
Uh,
Pittsburgh,
It,
look,
it
man,
looked
there's
like
teams that belong in the playoffs and some that don't. Pittsburgh did not.
it,
So
it looked like a. I don't know if you've ever been to like a high school game where you just like watch.
that's what
It's
I
like
said.
the you just know it was like you get that high school coach that gets that one player on the team, and the high school coach is like, he has that light bulb realization, and it's just like, oh, this one kid is just like 6 years older and like body type than everybody else that is
Yeah,
in high school. We're just gonna give the ball to you, and you're gonna do some shit. And I
yeah,
just felt like Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry were both that high school player, and they were just like, whenever one of us gets the ball, you're not going to be able to stop us, and that's what it was.
yeah.
It was crazy.
It was. It was insane. I mean, look, Henry's had some phenomenal games this year against really weak defensive lines, um, and no run defense at all. But this team, they ran over them. I mean,
Yeah,
over them. Uh, and that's a team that doesn't really have a good. They got one good player on. I mean, really, they got two good players on defense, but one of them was injured, and the other one actually ended up being injured towards the end of the game because they were doing everything. They were trying to take up the slack of everybody else that just absolutely sucks on that defensive line. So, I don't, we've dominated Henry over the last couple 3 years, and or the last 3 or 4 meetings, I should say. He had one good game against us. I think it was 2017.
that was when. Well, there was that game where the entire Chiefs. It was down in Tennessee, and it was. I think that was the final game of that like awful losing streak the Chiefs had during that Mahomes era. I want to was that 2019 maybe. Um,
Yeah, yeah, I think it was 18 or 19. You're right.
Something like that.
But it was
But
the only he had like 200 and something yards against us, and that was the best game he ever had.
yeah,
And
I mean
everything else has been
it's a pretty good
36.
game to have.
Well, you got to think though. After that, it was 58 yards, 48 yards, 67 yards. He's never gotten over 68 yards against us since then. What's up, man? Arrowhead News and Rumors reports here. Yeah, we're ready for it, man. Um, but yeah, I don't. I mean, I think he's going to bulldoze the Bills' defense. The only decent. I can't say that they got two decent players. One of them has been injured a lot with Matt Milano. He seemed to not have his. He's the thing about Matt Milano that kind of it shows. If he doesn't have a really good counterpart, he's not as good as everybody wants to make him out to be. And this year, even after his injury and came back, he's not been that same player. He's been okay, but he's not that dominant elite player that everybody wants to make, or they made him out to be his first year in the league, his second year in the league. So I have a feeling that between those two guys, and then because they opened the pass game up, and Lamar's been passing a lot better. He has been. They don't have the corners. They don't have the defensive line. They got Von Miller that steps in 4 times a game, gets a sack, goes back out because he's winded. I just don't see it, man. I can't see the Ravens not winning that game.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of hype on the Bills right now. Media hype, I should put it that way. More media hype than there is anything else. Bills Mafia and media hype, but I think the Ravens, their defense has gotten better towards the end of the year. Their offense is definitely good.
Since they put Kyle Hamilton back as a safety, that defense
Yeah,
has gotten significantly better. Early in the year, it was much worse.
changed everything.
Their pass defense was awful.
Absolutely.
And then they rotated him back to safety, and
Mhm.
it plugged up some of the holes that they were having.
Yep. So they're gonna be an interesting team when I believe that's who we're playing in the AFC Championship game.
In the
And
Arrowhead
that's going to be
Invitational.
interesting. In the Arrowhead Invitational. Crazy to think, man. Over the last since 2011, there's been 2 quarterbacks in the AFC Championship game. 2, for the most part. Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. The NFL really like rolled in from one dynasty to the other.
They really
Like,
did.
there was no break at all.
Yeah.
In fact, there was overlap.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that
Like
that
usually it
entire
doesn't
time.
happen in sports, you know?
No,
Usually
no,
there's some sort of break between when, the bottom feeders get to have hope again.
exactly.
Um,
Kind of
because
like
even
what the Broncos and the Chargers did for their fan bases, getting into the playoffs.
oh, a
They're bottom
Chargers fan
feeders.
base?
Yeah, all six of them.
Yeah.
Um,
And the Buffalo
you know,
Wild
the
Wings girl?
yeah, they got into the playoffs, and it lasted a whole 60 minutes, and that was it. But yeah, usually you don't have it. You're right. It's whether it's baseball or basketball or whatever, you don't have that same group every year in and year out that's taking over. You
Yeah,
know,
because like if you talk about, like if you go through the dynasties that you know about in every sport, right? You notice that there's at least somewhat of a gap. Like you've got the Yankees of the 90s, right?
yeah,
Well, and then there's not like a dominating team from like 2000 to 2004, right? Like there's a little bit of a break in
yeah,
between when like one team consistently rises up to the top again.
yep, yep. Kind of crazy to think that's what it's come down to, but you're right. They rolled one dynasty into another, and it's not slowing down. It doesn't seem like it's going to slow down. The question is, there's a big question out there. If the Chiefs three-peat, will they win another one afterwards for a few years? I don't know. I mean, the way their mindset is, okay, we three-peated, we're going to four-peat.
Yeah.
That's just how they think.
I have a four-peat just doesn't sound as good as
It
three-peat.
it just doesn't. Um, but if they did that,
They three-peat, the Chiefs might get banned from the NFL.
oh God, I mean,
They might get relegated, just so other teams have a chance.
the thing is, I know
The
people hate
Chiefs
winners.
the Chiefs might get shipped off to Europe so
Be
they
a
can
CFL
restart.
team.
Yeah, so they can restart. They'll restart NFL Europe just so
That would
other
be
teams
funny.
have a chance to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, we're hated. The Patriots were hated. Anytime you have a team that dominates over a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 year period, 20-year period like the Patriots did, you're going to be hated. I think the difference between us and the Patriots is that we've never had a cheating scandal. They had 8.
Yeah.
They were fined millions and millions and millions of dollars.
I think in the future, when those conversations, because, in 20 years, 30 years, or whatever, when the conversations are going to be had as to, what was the better dynasty, the Chiefs dynasty or the Brady dynasty. And part of the conversation, you'll have two people going back and forth, and someone will chime in and be like, well, the Chiefs never had any cheating scandals. And I think that inevitably is going to hurt the legacy of the Patriots era. Is when you have,
Absolutely.
especially when you have this one rolling right after it, because you can go through the list of the different Spygate and all that stuff. And even though I think Deflategate was over overblown, the fact of the matter is I think that the NFL felt like they had to do something because the history of the Patriots, right? If it
Exactly.
was if this was just another team, right? If that came out about, I don't know, pick a successful team, if in a couple years it came out that would Jared Goff, right, was doing something like that, like it
Yeah.
wouldn't be as big of a deal, and I think more people would be able to sort of brush it off because Jared Goff and the Lions don't have a history of cheating, even though that they've been a successful team. So
Yeah. I agree. I agree. It's just you're right. It is going to put an asterisk there, and that's fine. I mean,
just like the Houston Astros and
yeah,
their
exactly.
7-year run of they had 7 consecutive years of hosting the championship game, right?
Yeah,
And it's going to be held with an asterisk next to it. Their World Series is going to have an asterisk next to it because of the trash can banging.
exactly. So I don't know. I like the fact that we are hated because that just tells you how good we actually are. People
Yeah.
hate winners, so it's kind of nice to sit back and go, well, fuck, hate us all you want, but we're winning and your team's not. So I don't know what to tell you. You had a chance.
Nobody hates the Johnny Manziel Cleveland Browns.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, right. Nobody hated the Eli Manning Giants, other than
Except
Patriots
Patriots.
fans. I mean, everybody was like, "Yeah, fuck yeah, you beat Brady," but and you did it twice. But it's just it's the continual winning and the continual hype. The fact that we went 15-2 with all those injuries. Mahomes didn't have his greatest statistical season ever, and we're still there. We're
Yeah.
still on top of the world right now. Until somebody knocks us off that pedestal, we're still up there. It's Mahomes Mountain for a reason. Ask Nick Wright. So, uh, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. A couple of the analysts out there, especially the clickbait analysts like Ocho, what's his name, Ho or whatever his name, Sam Ocho
Acho.
or Acho, or I don't know. The guy that screams all the time. He pissed Shady McCoy off the other day. He said, "Yeah, I don't know, man. I just can't see the Chiefs winning all these games. I just can't see them winning the Super Bowl." Why do you say that? Well, I don't know. I think it's their defense. What? I thought you actually knew football. We have the number 2 defense in football, number 4 overall, number 2 in most categories. What changed about our defense that makes you think we can't dominate anybody that's out there? Shady McCoy just lost it. Are you kidding me? You got Patrick Mahomes, Chris Jones, Andy Reid, the best coach that's ever coached football. He said, "I thought you were smart." He said, "I guess." And then you come up with this dumb shit. The difference is that Ocho's out there talking. He played 1 year in the NFL. I think it was 1 year. Never played again. Wasn't good enough. But he's out there analyzing teams like he knows everything about them. Most of that's clickbait, but he does get under people's skin. And he's the reason why a lot of times you get him, Stephen A. Smith sometimes does it, Skip Bayless, he was really bad about it. They love the clickbait because they know how they're going to get paid. Skip is still doing it to this day. He goes on and says something stupid and gets millions and millions of views. And that just translates into dollars in his pocket. So he doesn't care what he says. And I think that's a lot of what you see with these national analysts. They talk because they know how to get paid. That's okay. If that's what you want to do, but don't say really stupid shit. Chris Sims put up I got it on my page. Beginning of the year, he had his list. Cincinnati Bengals were the number 1 team in football, and they were going to go to the Super Bowl. Number 1 team in the AFC, going to go to the Super Bowl. That was his list. We were number 2, behind them. I think the Bills and the Ravens, if I'm not mistaken, were 5 and 6. Don't remember who he had in between there. But it goes to show you that these guys that don't last in the NFL, Chris Sims, Ocho, all those other guys, they talk out their ass because that's the only way they can get paid
Hold
now.
on. I will say this. I know Chris Sims did pull back on his Bengals love as the season went on. So,
well, that was smart on his part, but you almost have to. I mean, it's not like you can make up an excuse for them sucking ass.
I mean,
But
their offense. I mean, I don't know if I want to get into this, but I mean, because their offense was still great. It was their defense that was the problem.
it really was. But their play calling, their coaching was terrible. The time management was probably one of the worst that they had. I mean, I don't think their defense is as bad as Zach Taylor's time management. Because when it was down to the minute, he would do something really fucking stupid to make sure they lost that game. I don't know how he still has a job, but he
Because
does.
a lot of NFL owners do not want to pay multiple coaches at once. Why do you think the Cowboys let Mike
It's true.
McCarthy's contract just expire and not fire him? Because Jerry Jones
Yeah,
doesn't
it
want
makes
to
sense.
pay
Because Jerry
more
Jones,
than one coach at once. Because otherwise, if he didn't have
and
a
that makes
problem with
sense.
it, Mike McCarthy would have been fired last year after that debacle of a loss to the Packers in round 1 of the playoffs.
Yeah, he said especially the cheap ass Bengals. That's very true. They're probably one of the tightest
Well,
teams in football.
they how what Marvin Lewis, they held on to him for how long? Even though you knew what you had
Yeah,
between with him and who was Andy Dalton. You knew what you had
yeah,
with that, and
yeah.
they just kept going moving forward.
Very true. I don't know, man. You make mistakes, and I guess you move on from them. But some people learn, and some people don't. That's the difference. If you want to be cheap and you bring in cheap help, you're going to get cheap results. It's just how it is. Jerry Jones is a cheap guy now, and fuck, he didn't even want to put a visor up so those guys don't go blind trying to catch a football.
Yeah. Well, where
So,
you just move the curtain, but
yeah, God forbid. What do you expect me to tear the goddamn stadium down? I ain't tearing down the stadium. What the fuck?
yeah,
I mean, I don't know, dude. If you're unhappy with your franchise, bitch at your owner, because that's the problem. It has nothing to do with us being a dominant
for
team.
yeah, unfortunately, there's a lot of organizations that are like that outside of football. The Athletics are
Yeah,
like that. For a while, the Royals were like that. You
yeah.
know, David Glass didn't spend a dime on this team,
Oh, and he
and
lied through his teeth too about that David Glass. Oh, I'm going to spend all
until
this money.
yeah, he didn't spend any money until what 2013,
Yeah,
and then look what happened. You know,
exactly. And I don't know. I think he kind of bullshit a lot of people too. I don't know if he had the money to spend.
he owned
I
part of
don't.
Walmart.
I know, but it wasn't significant enough.
It was
I don't.
significant enough for him to buy a baseball team.
But dude, he bought the Royals. It's not like he bought the fucking Yankees.
Yeah, that's dude. I mean, tens of millions of dollars. Plus, you own the baseball team. You're making money off the baseball team.
Well, okay. Well, look at the Commanders, Washington. Look who bought them. Who bought them? I mean,
Well, also, it's not just one guy; it's an ownership group.
that's true. But you got all these guys that invested and did it the right way, and now look at them.
Yeah,
Jay Daniels brought a 4-win team to the playoffs.
yeah, and
I,
won a playoff game.
and won a playoff game. So look, I don't know, man. I look at some of these guys use it for a write off. Some of these guys use it just to say they own a team, a professional sports team. Glass, I knew he was full of shit from day one. Look, man, in 19 was it 91, 92, the Royals had a $41 million cap or a salary cap. That was their salary for everybody, including the managers. $41 million, dude. I mean, I watched it happen. I physically watched it happen, and I thought, how the fuck are they? You got Bo Jackson playing for this team, a guy that is worth double what your entire salary is for the season. How does this continue to happen? Low market team, low market, you get low value. It is what it is. So anyway, what's your prediction for Saturday?
Uh, I
Pain.
I think the Chiefs get off. It's going to feel a lot like the Steelers Ravens game, where in this it's just going to feel like the Chiefs are really dominating the game, but I don't think the final score is going to really show it, right? Where the Chiefs aren't going to run up the score, but after the first couple of drives of the game, it's just going to be like, okay, the Chiefs are clearly the better team here.
Yeah.
Um, so I would imagine that like 27-14 seems like a good score. Um, yeah, that's what I'm feeling for. 27-14 Chiefs, and one of those touchdowns that the Texans get's gonna, come in some garbage time.
Yeah, and I kind of thought they would end up with one touchdown, two field goals. That's kind of what I felt. I figured it'd be 28-13 because
Yeah.
I like the Texans. Look, man, if you want to model yourself after a great franchise, there's only a few you can go by. The Texans is one of them. The Chiefs are one of them. They're well ran organizations with great coaches. I love DeMarco Ryan. I think he's a great coach,
Yeah.
and I really like C.J. Stroud. I think he's a great quarterback. They got some tough injuries. I think I think they got a little bit of growing to do, but I still think they're going to be one of those teams that are going to do well just because they have a good organization around them. And they're not afraid to spend the money. If they want to spend the money, they'll spend it. You know, I would, I'm glad they made it. I am. I'm glad they made it this far.
It is crazy that the same 4 teams that made a divisional round last year are in the divisional round this year.
Yeah.
And then the NFC side, it's like completely different.
Absolutely.
There's no 49ers. Yeah, the Lions are still here. Remember the Eagles were one and done in the playoffs last year. So it's like the NFC is different, and it's almost exactly the same in the AFC. It's just that it's being played in Arrowhead this year and Buffalo.
Yeah.
The locations have changed. The teams are just the same.
Exactly. It's crazy to think. I mean, and look, the Rams don't. I would not be surprised if they're the Super Bowl contenders.
I've got them making into the. I have them making to the championship game. I have Lions Rams championship game. Is what
you think it's the Lions?
So, yes.
I think it's the Eagles in them, but the only reason I say the Eagles is just simply because they're so hyped right now.
Well, the Eagles and Rams are playing each other.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So it's got to be. Yeah. So Eagles are going to lose.
I had the Rams.
That's right. They are. I was thinking they were playing. I thought they were playing Detroit. No, you're right. Oh, by the way, did you see that idiot Eagles fan that went after that girl that was a Packers fan?
Yeah, it's.
Holy crap, dude! That guy's a psycho.
Yeah. There's some horrible sports fans out there, and
God,
I feel bad for her because, it's like that's why I don't think I would ever go to an opposing field and watch a Chiefs game. Now I'm like going to Lambeau and watching a Packers play whoever, like a Packers Bears game in Lambeau Field sounds great.
Yeah.
But I don't think I get to ever go to Lambeau Field and watch a Chiefs game just because of something, like that could happen. And it's just like, you're going to ruin my entire experience. But go there to watch just a good football game. I'm all down for.
It's kind of crazy to think that if you look at all the fan bases out there, the number 1 and number 2 worst fan bases in football is Buffalo and the Eagles.
I don't know about that.
It is. There's no worse. I mean, they've been saying this. They've done all kinds of studies on this.
I mean, you literally got batteries thrown at you.
Well, that was the Raiders back in the day. I mean, I don't even think they're as bad now as they were back then. They're bad. Don't get me wrong. But the Eagles fan base is terrible. I mean, they were fucking wrecking cars into light poles after they won that game.
Well, I mean, the guy ate horse shit. So.
Yeah. I don't know, dude. I mean, back in '96 when that happened, that was a group of like 6 guys. And yeah, they were firing some D-sized batteries at us.
Hey, I just think it's ironic that the Philadelphia is known as the city of brotherly love.
I don't have.
I don't see any brotherly love coming out of that city.
I don't either. I think they all hate each other. I think every one of them hate each other. And when they lose at any sports, whatever sports team it may be, they really hate. They burn their own houses down. They will beat the shit out of their neighbor and burn their house down. And they all got Eagles flags flying. Very strange fan base. That guy, he lost his job. He lost everything over that. He got banned from ever going to another Eagles game.
Good.
And he deserved it. He deserved it. I mean, to say the thing, and that, the sad part is that guy's or that girl's fiance is a writer for the Green Bay Packers. And he said, I don't know what, because people said, why didn't you crack the guy in the jaw? Because the guy had 4 of his friends there and his brother. And I'm a lone Green Bay Packers fan with my, my fiance standing there. He said, what do you think was going to happen?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Sad to see that shit happen. So you got 27-14. I got 28-13.
Yeah.
Thiz, what do you got?
All right. Well, Thiz is doing that. Would you like to hear my
I want to hear it.
Great football take?
I got to hear it.
So I don't know if you saw this or not, but the NFL is considering changing their playoff format, and I hate it. I do not like it. So this comes from CBS Sports that was reporting this. So basically, they want to make it to where winning percentage takes precedent over divisional winning. So basically, they don't want a Minnesota Vikings to be on the road in the playoffs if that were to happen again, right?
Yeah.
They don't want two great record teams, to come up to end at a divisional fight for one of them to go on the road. I hate it
Yeah, it's stupid.
because my comparison to this, and this is where I think people will really like it, is conference realignment in college football. People
Yeah.
despise conference realignment in college football. Why? Because it took rivalries away.
Yep.
Missouri and KU no longer play each other in the
Yep.
same way that they used to because Missouri's in the SEC now.
Yep.
If you take division winning as the sole purpose for guaranteeing you a playoff spot, if you remove that from it, division games don't matter.
Exactly.
If you
What's
remove
the
that,
point?
then the Chiefs playing the Broncos twice a year or the Raiders game, like it's not as much hype anymore
No.
because they don't mean as much. Because when the Chiefs win the West, guarantees a playoff spot. That's it. End of story. Now,
Yeah.
seeding, Matt, where you play 1 through 4, that sort of stuff. Obviously, the other games matter. But the reason why you get so excited for the Broncos games, for the Raiders games, I guess the Chargers games, the reason you get so excited for those is because they mean more than any other game.
It's true.
And if you change that to where you're going to start with winning percentage as the most important thing, you're removing divisions from it, and I get less excited for those games. And that's exactly what happened in college football, is you removed those rivalries
Yep.
by moving them to for them, it was moving it to other conferences, but in the end, it'll be the same thing where rivalries will matter less and eventually they'll die off. And I love hating the Raiders. I love hating the Broncos. Don't take that away from me.
Yeah.
This is a horrible idea. If the Vikings wanted to be the 1 seed and they wanted to have a home playoff game, you should have beat the Lions.
I agree. And as much as I hate to agree with you, I agree with you. I didn't think I was gonna on this, but I do. I 100% agree with you. It's a really bad idea. They're gonna. I think when it all boils down to it, that will actually cost them viewership.
Well,
Because you're
because
right.
the reason, like, sure, okay, you'd have the Lions and the Vikings in this instance, right? You have the Lions and the Vikings who would be hosting a playoff game in the first round, right? But that means whoever your number 4 seed was, the Tampa Bay would have had to go on the road, even though they won their division.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody has to be the road team. And I just think that, plus we saw a home team lose.
Yeah.
So, or I'm sorry, we saw a home team with a worse record win, right? With
Well, that's true. Yeah.
the Houston Texans. So
Yep.
I just, yes, divisions matter. Make divisions matter. Keep divisions mattering because rivalries is what's great about sports.
Well, the one
Don't
thing
take it
about
away.
this, though, here's the thing. I don't know if they'll ever be able to get that passed because that's got to go through all 32 owners, and
I don't even
then
like the fact that this is like,
a conversation.
yes, this shouldn't
Yeah.
even be a conversation.
I wonder
Whatever,
what nerd came up with that
yeah,
idea.
whatever intern came up with
Yeah.
this, you should just
Exactly.
throw the stapler at him and then move on. I
Exactly.
hate this. This shouldn't even be a discussion.
No, it
Rivalries are
shouldn't.
so important, especially in the NFL,
Yep.
right? Like in other sports, they don't matter as much, right? Like, I know I talk a lot of baseball on this, but like in baseball, right? In the AL Central, like I have more of a problem. I hate the Yankees more than I hate the Detroit Tigers,
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
but
But you know what
when
that comes down to, though, right? Winning.
right, but and I think it's because you play so many more games, and so each individual game matters less. In football, it's so much different. The rivalries in this sport are so important, and they
It
mean
really
more,
is.
just like they do in college football. And when you took those rivalries away, I like. I'll be honest, okay? Like I was in what, 5th grade, something like that, early middle school, late elementary school, when MU left for the
Yeah.
SEC. The
Yep.
MU-KU rivalry to me is there, but it's like it doesn't mean that much to
It's
me.
more of a state line rivalry than it is
Yeah,
a
it
team to team
doesn't.
rivalry.
So like when my dad gets hyped up for the MU-KU games that happen, I'm like, okay, like I get it, like it's exciting, but it doesn't mean as much to me,
Yeah.
right? and I'm a sports fan. I'm a sports guy. And
Yeah,
so if you do that to the NFL, I know that in, 15 years, the Broncos and Chiefs games are not going to matter to as much to whatever kid is growing up at the time that they change that. It's just not going to matter to
exactly.
as much to them. It'll matter to you and me, but it
Yep.
won't matter to the next generation of sports fans, and that would suck.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. As much as that pains me to say, I absolutely agree with you.
It's a great take.
Yep, it is. Well, with that being said, I don't know what else do we got. Do we got anything?
Nope. Chiefs play first round on Saturday, 3:30, I believe
Yeah,
is the kickoff. So we will have a show after the game. So however long the game is, we will have a show after the game,
that's
recap
right.
it, and we'll talk everything then. And then we'll have to wait till Sunday night to see who the Chiefs play next week.
That's right.
I guess the following week.
Yep. Well, we appreciate everybody for joining, and we will talk to you guys again on Saturday night. Peace out, everybody.
See ya.